Namaskaram. I'm indeed blessed to commence my journey in this path in the Punya Kshetra of Varanasi and also in front of this august audience. My topic for today is understanding Shaiva temple building outside the Indian subcontinent, the past and present. Thank you. It is an 11-letter topic, so simplistically put, but with a meaning deeper than the Pacific Ocean. I shall be covering the temple buildings of the past for a brief moment and would be concentrating more on the temples of the present to bring light to the new area of the field. A temple has always played a very important role in every one of our lives. Beginning from the Annaprashna to celebrating every joyous occasion, it is a major part of our childhood memories as well as a refuge for the journey throughout our lives. No wonder our ancestors have given elaborate rules about the construction as well as the functioning of the temples. Temple construction is a perfect collaboration between the Acharya and the Sthapati. Using the canonical texts of the Shaivagamas and the Shilpa Shastra manuals, there are very detailed rules about these that are being handed down to us through these texts. Next, please. Temples outside of the Indian subcontinent are not something modern, as they have always existed across the globe. It could be a grandest construction or rather a simplistic sulam that is being venerated across the Pacific Ocean. This presence across the globe is what I believe are the essence of Sanatana Dharma, and that it has permeated and pervaded across time and globe. Some of the oldest temples outside India can be found in countries like Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Myanmar, etc., where seafaring empires of yore, like the Chola Empire and the Vijayanagara Empire, had spread their dominions. I shall be spending a very brief moment on two such temples in Indonesia. The Dieng Temple in Central Java, there are four compounds. There are three compounds and one Bhimakandi. Next, please. The next one is the Lara Jongrang group of temples, which is designated as the UNESCO World Heritage in the year 1999. Next, please. Temples have been built by so many religious societies in the past, recent past, for around 200 to 300 years back. And some religious societies, to name a few, are BAP, Swaminarayan, and ISKCON group of temples. And these temples are also being built by non-Indian Indian immigrants for their community needs. There are unique challenges in building these temples across the world. The planning, design, and construction, while following the traditional texts, have to also accommodate several unique local requirements. First and foremost are the different building laws and regulations that include zoning, maximum height of the structure, land utilization, etc. in different regions. At times, the Hindu community is not even given complete access to the open expression of their religion. The other aspects, such as the soil quality, weather conditions, etc., have to be taken into consideration to determine the stability of the structure. Apart from being a place of worship, it is also intended for many other activities like the teaching of traditional values and other co-curricular activities like singing and dancing classes for the younger generation. It is also used for conducting personal events like weddings, Shashtiyapta Purti, Namakarna, etc. At times, it also provides a residence for the priest, giving them easier access to the temple. Similar to temples here, temples abroad also serve prasadam to all the devotees that visit the temple. The only challenge there is that the devotees will not be able to sit in the temple and consume the same. This makes the construction of a separate area as a dining area as a necessity in temples abroad. It must also be understood that not all temples abroad are greenfield projects. Sometimes an already existing building like an unused factory or banquet hall have to be converted into a temple while following the traditional temple rules. It must also be able to accommodate devotees from various cultural and linguistic backgrounds and must be able to welcome and celebrate the various sampradayas that each community wishes to celebrate. I now shall be discussing 3 case studies where the temples were built in 3 different methods, namely traditional, traditional modern, fusion and modern. Next please. The first case study is about Sri Katpaga Vinayagar Temple, Walthamstow, United Kingdom. It was constructed in the year 1998 by an Indian-based temple architectural firm named Sri Logos International. This temple was constructed by converting an old banquet hall. Next, please. The materials used in the construction were mainly brick and mortar, and it is considered as a temple that has been built traditionally because of the fact that the artisans went to the United Kingdom and stayed till the completion of the project. That took around 6 months of time. And in the later years, next please. In the later years, they also acquired various rathams, vahanams and mandapams made out of modernized materials called fiber reinforced polymer and glass fiber reinforced concrete from the same firm. The temple also has a separate space nearby for the local Hindu community to celebrate their functions like the naming ceremony, weddings, etc. Next please. The second case study is about Sri Siddhivinayagar Temple, Herning, Denmark. The construction began in the year 1997 by a local contractor, but due to the lack of agamic knowledge of the said contractor, the community was not very happy with the construction and they had to stop the construction halfway. So after 2 years, the construction was taken over by the aforementioned firm. In the year 2000, the temple was constructed using brick and mortar and seasoned woods. Artisans from India stayed in Denmark to complete the construction, and that took around 6 months of time. Next, please. These are the pictures of the temple when it was constructed in the year 2000. Next, please. The Stapati had handcrafted every detail of this temple, and the only issue here was the artisans knew the mixing ratio, the concrete mixing ratio as per the Indian standards only, which kind of created a gradual damage over the years that was also caused by the other reasons like the extreme weather conditions. So this brings me to the next phase of the temple. Next, please. During the renovation, the Stapati used modern day materials like FRP and GFRC, as said before, for the construction of the entire temple. The local government also had laid many restrictions regarding the open expression of the religion. So this method came in handy. By using these modernized materials, the Stapati was able to create designs for both the interior and exterior that were temporary and easily removable. These designs, made out of FRP and GFRC, were manufactured in India and shipped to Denmark. The artisans were brought only for the final touches, and this construction took about 6 months of time. Next, please. These are the other pictures of the temple. Next, please. Moving on to the final case study, it is about Sri Kurunji Kumaran Temple, located in Wellington, New Zealand. This temple is said to be constructed in a completely modernized way. Next, please. The temple was constructed in parts using FRP, GFRC, seasoned woods, and it was constructed in approximately 4 months and was shipped to New Zealand in parts. Next, please. The dismantled parts were shipped to New Zealand, and from there it was taken to the allocated site and was assembled by the Stapati himself with the help of few artisans from India. Next, please. As the Stapati was not able to bring his entire team, the temple was assembled with major help from the local builders and especially from the volunteers. The structure was brought into form by using modern day machinery, causing the completion of the entire project in a month. Next, please. These are the pictures while the assembling of the temple. This brings me to a very important aspect of the construction. The temple was built in this method mainly because of the extreme geological conditions. Next, please. Since Wellington is an earthquake-prone area, they had to construct a building that would cause the least amount of damage in case of a mishap. In the past 8 years, as you can see, Wellington has witnessed hundreds of earthquakes at various magnitude points. Yet the Kurinjikumaran temple has stood strong through all these geological changes. All these temples have grown into very important places for the local Hindus. They celebrate various pujas, utsavams and functions, and also conduct cultural events and classes to help the younger generation understand their traditional values and roots. This is the present time of Shri Katpaga Vinayaga temple. Next please. Shri Siddhi Vinayaga temple. And next please. Kurinjikumaran temple. This brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. To propagate was never a part of Sanatana Dharma. To reciprocate or to recreate what our ancestors have done. No, I have some more slides. Okay. To propagate was never a part of Sanatana Dharma. To reciprocate or to recreate what our ancestors have done has always been the essence of what our Sanatana Dharma in this day and age has always been. This reciprocation has always been in a nuanced manner in countries where a majority is never present. Right now, Hindus across the globe strive to recreate what their ancestors have done in our country. From people converting for money to other religions, we have come to a stage where people are returning back to this Sanatana Dharma, thus proving us the construction of temples abroad play a very important role to help our NRI Hindus and their children to stay connected to our culture. The changes in material, before slide. Change in materials used for the temple construction is natural. There was a constant progression in the materials from using granites to limestones to brick and mortar, and we have come now to materials like fiber reinforced polymers and glass reinforced polymer concretes. This progression will continue in the future with the rise in better materials and requirements at hand. Even in countries like Sri Lanka, Malaysia and Singapore, where temples and temple-related items are can be built traditionally, they do have a preference for rathams and vahanams and mandapams made out of these materials, as they prove to be lightweight, can be easily maintained, and as a bonus are also long-lasting. It must be understood that modern technology is merely a tool to achieve the teachings laid out by our agamic texts. I would like to conclude by chanting the Vartha. Next, please. Van Mugil Valadu Peiga, Malivalam Surakka, Mannan Kon Murai Arasu Seiga, Kurayilladu Uirgal Valga, Nan Marai Arangal Onga, Natravam Velvi Malga, Mainmai Kol Shaiva Nidhi, Vilangaga Ulagamellam. Namaste, Jai Hind.